Welcome back to Econ in the Wild.
It is good to be here. Usually when I prepare for these deep dives, I'm reading Federal Reserve minutes or looking at supply chain manifestos for crude oil.
Right, the heavy stuff.
The heavy stuff. This week, however, I found myself reading about friendship bracelets, the structural integrity of sequins, and the geopolitical implications of a pop star's travel itinerary. It has been a very different week.
It's a bit of a pivot for us, but I think it's necessary. We often talk about the economy as this, this abstract cloud of numbers that lives on Wall Street. But today we are talking about something that literally shook the ground. I mean, seismologists actually measured it. We are talking about the Eras Tour.
We are. But I want to be the buzzkill right at the start here.
Of course you do. That's your brand.
We aren't here to fanboy or fangirl over the set list. We aren't here to debate which era is the best, though, the data suggests 1989 has the most commercial mass appeal.
Folklore fans are going to come for you in the comments, but go on.
The reason we're doing this is because the Eras Tour isn't just a series of concerts. It is, and I mean this seriously, a macroeconomic event.
Okay.
When you have a single tour grossing over $2.2 billion, that is not entertainment. That is a high-velocity economic engine that is arguably more powerful than the GDP of several small island nations.
A high-velocity economic engine. It sounds impressive, but I have to be the skeptic for a second. Is that just like corporate hyperbole?
I don't think so.
I mean, big artists have toured before. The Rolling Stones tour, U2 tours. Why is this one getting treated like a case study at the London School of Economics?
Because it shattered the structural norms of the industry. It didn't just break records. It reinvented the revenue architecture.
Well,
we are going to use this tour as a lens.
okay.
We are going to strip away the celebrity and look at the raw mechanics: supply, demand, pricing, geopolitics, and labor markets.
Okay, but we have a rule, the coffee shop test.
The coffee shop test, yes.
For the listeners who are new, if you can't explain the concept to a friend over a latte without their eyes glazing over, you haven't explained it.
Right.
No textbooks, no graphs, just plain English.
Agreed. If I start sounding like a thesis paper, you have my permission to cut me off.
Oh, I will. So where do we even begin with a beast this size?
We have to start with the spark. We have to start with the moment the money tried to move. We have to talk about the Hunger Games.
November 2022, the ticket sale.
Or, as an economist would describe it, a catastrophic imbalance between supply and demand.
Let's look at the numbers, because
Yeah.
they are honestly hard to process. The verified fan program opens. This is supposed to be the gatekeeper, right?
That was the idea, to keep the bots out.
So how many people raised their hand?
For the pre-sale alone, there were 3.5 million registrations.
3.5 million.
Yeah, let's try to visualize that. That is roughly the entire population of Los Angeles proper,
Wow.
all trying to walk through a single digital door at the exact same moment.
And how many seats were actually behind that door?
In the U.S. leg, there were about 2.4 million seats total. But remember, those seats are spread out over months.
Right, it's not all at once.
Not at all. For the specific pre-sale inventory, it was a fraction of that. So mathematically, from the very first second, you had over 1 million people who were guaranteed to lose.
Too many people chasing too few goods. That's the classic definition of, well, a shortage. But here's my question, and I think this is where the coffee shop conversation gets interesting. Why?
Why?
Why was the demand that high? I mean, Taylor Swift has been famous for 15 years. She's done stadium tours before. Reputation was a stadium tour. It was big, but it didn't break the internet. What changed?
That is the right question. To answer it, we have to look at the context. This wasn't just a little bump in popularity. We witnessed a massive shift in demand.
Okay, explain that shift in plain English.
Demand isn't static. It's not just about how much people like a song, right? It's about the environment they're living in.
Yeah.
Think about where we were in late 2022 and early 2023.
We were just really coming out of the pandemic fog.
Exactly. We are talking about the post-pandemic context. For nearly 3 years, people were structurally restricted from gathering. We were locked down.
Couldn't go to festivals, couldn't travel.
They couldn't scream in a stadium with 50,000 strangers. All that energy got bottled up.
So we had this pent-up energy.
And pent-up savings.
Mm.
Now, not everyone, obviously, but a specific demographic of the middle and upper middle class had accumulated savings. They weren't spending on vacations or commuting or going out to eat.
Right.
When the doors opened, there was this psychological pivot. We call it the experience economy.
I've heard this term.
Yeah.
It's the idea that I'd rather buy a memory than a toaster.
Precisely. In 2019, you might have saved up for a new couch. In 2023, that couch felt like a prison. You wanted to be
I
out.
wanted connection.
You wanted connection. And the Eras Tour wasn't just marketed as a concert. It was marketed as the ultimate communal experience. It was a gathering of the tribes.
So the utility, to use an econ word of the ticket, went up because we were all lonely and desperate for a party.
Yes. The value of that ticket was higher because the scarcity of human connection had been so high for so long.
Mm.
But there is another factor here, one that I think is even more fascinating. The sources refer to it as the girl economy.
This is a term that kept popping up in 2023. You had Taylor, you had Beyoncé's Renaissance tour, and you had the Barbie movie.
The holy trinity of 2023.
But is girl economy a real economic driver, or is it just, a marketing slogan?
Oh, it is absolutely a real economic driver, and here's why. Historically, markets have often underestimated the discretionary spending power of women, or they've pigeonholed it into very specific categories: household goods, fashion, beauty.
Right. Pink tax stuff.
Exactly. But what we saw in 2023 was a flex. It was a demonstration of economic agency. You had women of all ages, from teenagers to boomers, who were controlling the purse strings for leisure spending.
And they weren't just buying a ticket.
No, they were buying an identity, they were dressing up, they were traveling in groups, they were making a statement that said, we are the center of the cultural and economic conversation right now.
It felt like a correction. Like, for years, so-called serious movies and serious music were male-coded, and suddenly the biggest things in the world were hyper-feminine, and they were making billions.
And markets hate a vacuum. That demand had been ignored or underserved for a long time, and when Taylor Swift provided a product that matched that identity, the demand just exploded.
Okay, so we have revenge spending from the pandemic, we have the girl economy, but let's look at the numbers compared to the old guard. You mentioned Elton John and U2 earlier.
Yes, context is everything. Before Taylor, Elton John held the record for the highest grossing tour with his Farewell Yellow Brick Road tour.
Which was a massive tour, a huge deal.
It was massive. He grossed $939 million. I mean, nearly $1 billion.
Okay, so Taylor doing $2.2 billion is impressive, but it's essentially double. It's not like she did 100 times more.
But look at the efficiency. Look at the labor involved. Elton John needed 328 shows to hit that number.
328.
He was on the road for years. It was a marathon.
That sounds exhausting just saying it.
It is. Taylor Swift hit $2.2 billion in 149 shows.
Wait a minute. So she made more than double the money in less than half the shows.
Correct. Her revenue per show dwarfed anything we have ever seen in the music industry. And that brings us to the core economic concept that defined this whole thing: inelasticity.
Okay, inelasticity. This is one of those words that sounds like it involves rubber bands. Let's do the coffee shop test.
Okay. Imagine you're at the coffee shop. You go to buy your morning latte. The barista tells you, sorry, the price of lattes just went up to $25. What do?
I laugh, turn around, and I walk out. Or I buy a tea. Or I just go home and brew my own coffee.
Exactly. Your demand is elastic. If the price stretches too far, you snap back. You find a substitute.
Because there are plenty of substitutes for a latte.
Now imagine you have a life-threatening allergy and you need an EpiPen. The pharmacist says the price is now $1,000.
Ugh. I pay it. I have to.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is, well, it's not an option.
That is inelastic demand. The price goes up, but the buying behavior doesn't really change because there is no substitute.
So are you saying Taylor Swift is an EpiPen?
Economically, yes. In a way.
That is a bold claim.
But think about it. If you are a diehard Swiftie and the ticket price is $500 or $1,000, what is the substitute? Can you go see a cover band at a local bar?
No, that's not the same at all.
Can you go see Ed Sheeran?
I like Ed, but no, it's a completely different experience, a different tribe.
Can you just listen to the album on Spotify?
No, because then I'm not there. I don't get to trade the bracelets. I don't get the communal feeling.
Exactly. There is only one Taylor Swift. It is a monopoly on a specific emotional experience. Therefore, the demand is inelastic. When the price rises, people don't walk away. They just complain, they panic, and then they open their wallets.
The data really backs this up. The sources included a survey of attendees. Even after all the ticket chaos, the travel costs, the merch, 91% said they would go again.
And 71% said the high cost was worth it.
That blows my mind. We were in a time of high inflation. Rent was up, eggs were expensive, gas was pricey. Logic says you cut the fun budget first.
But Swiftonomics defies standard recession logic. This connects to a concept that analysts started calling funflation.
Funflation. It sounds fake, but I'm intrigued.
It's very real. It describes the phenomenon where consumers continue to spend, sometimes even more, on entertainment and experiences even when inflation for necessities is high.
Wait, explain that. If I'm broke because of egg prices, why am I spending $1,000 on a concert?
Because the world feels chaotic, the real world of groceries and rent is depressing, so the value of the escape actually increases.
Ah, I see.
You might cut back on the quality of meat you buy, you might drive less, but you protect the one thing that brings you joy. You prioritize the memory over the commodity.
So Taylor Swift wasn't competing with other artists. She was competing with reality?
Reality was losing. People were willing to pay a premium to escape into the era's world for 3 hours, and that inelasticity, that I will pay anything mindset, is exactly what broke the ticket market.
Which leads us perfectly into the dark side of this story. We've talked about the fans wanting tickets. Now we have to talk about what happened when they tried to buy them.
The Ticketmaster meltdown.
I still have friends who get a 1,000-yard stare when you mention November 15, 2022.
It was a traumatic event for millions of consumers. The site crashed. The codes didn't work. People were in the queue for 8, 9, 10 hours.
And then the general sale was canceled.
Yeah.
Imagine a store saying, yeah, we're just not going to open the doors because there are too many of you.
It triggered a massive backlash. We saw antitrust lawsuits. We saw the Department of Justice get involved. There were claims of monopoly power, price fixing, and let's not forget the junk fees.
Oh, don't get me started on the fees. You see a ticket for $200. By the time you check out, it's somehow $350 because of a convenience fee. There is nothing convenient about paying an extra $150.
The sources mention fees as high as 44% of the ticket's face value. But I want to focus on the pricing anomaly itself, because this is where the armchair economists on social media usually get it wrong.
No, so
People blamed Ticketmaster, and they blamed the scalpers. And morally, sure, blame them. But structurally, what we saw was a massive shortage created by pricing that was, believe it or not, too low.
too low. People were complaining the tickets were too expensive. Face value was averaging around $208. That's not cheap.
It's not cheap for a movie ticket, no. But let's look at the secondary market, the resale sites like StubHub and Vivid Seats. What were tickets selling for there?
The CBS News report in our notes says they were seeing listings for $6,300, some for $8,253.
And the outliers.
There was that viral tweet of a floor seat listed for $22,500.
Okay, so if you have a product that people are visibly willing to pay $6, $8, even $20,000 for, and you sell it for $200, what happens?
You run out instantly. It's gone.
Exactly. It's like selling solid gold bars for $10. The line will be around the block, and the first person to buy one will turn around and sell it to the guy behind him for $500.
So you're saying Taylor Swift underpriced her tickets?
Massively. In economic terms, the retail price or the face value was far below the equilibrium price.
Okay. Coffee shop time, equilibrium price. What does that mean?
The equilibrium price is the true price. It's the magical number where the amount of people who want a ticket exactly matches the number of seats, no lines, no empty seats, no chaos.
And based on the resale market, that true price was probably closer to $2,000 or $3,000.
Probably. Now, here is the tension. Why didn't she just charge $3,000 from the start? She could have. She would have made billions more for her own pocket.
Because then she looks like a villain. She looks greedy.
Exactly. There is a goodwill asset. If she charges market rate, she alienates her fan base. So she artificially lowers the price to $200 to be seen as accessible.
But, and here's the kicker, that accessibility is an illusion. Because if the price is $200, 3.5 million people try to buy it. The site crashes. And the only people who end up with tickets are the ones with the fastest bots or the most luck.
Enter the scalpers.
The villains of our story.
Economists have a complicated relationship with scalpers. Nobody likes them. But functionally, they serve a purpose in a broken market. They find the equilibrium.
They find the price that people are actually willing to pay.
Yes. They look at the chaos and say, actually, this ticket is worth $5,000. And they create a marketplace that facilitates that transaction.
But here is why it hurts. Here's why people were literally crying on TikTok. It's about something you call consumer surplus.
Yes. This is the key concept. This explains all the anger.
Break it down for me. What is it?
Consumer surplus is the happiness bonus you get when you buy something for less than you are willing to pay.
Give me a real-world example.
Okay, let's say you need a new laptop. You've done your research, you look at your bank account, and you decide, I am willing to pay $1,500 for this laptop.
Okay, $1,500 is my absolute limit.
You walk into the store, and it's on sale for $1,000.
I feel like a genius. I feel like I won. I saved $500.
That $500 stays in your pocket. That feeling of winning, that is consumer surplus. It is value that belongs to you, the consumer.
So in the case of the Eras Tour,
Taylor Swift tried to give her fans a massive consumer surplus. She basically said, I know you'd pay $1,000, but I'm selling it to you for $200. Here, keep the $800 of value. Buy dinner, buy a t-shirt, save it for rent.
she tried to gift us that value.
But the scalpers intercepted it.
That's the theft.
Exactly. The fans still paid $1,000, but they paid it to a scalper on StubHub. So the $800 surplus didn't stay with the fan, and it didn't go to the artist or the crew. It went to a middleman who added zero value to the product.
That's why it feels so gross. If I pay Taylor Swift the $1,000, at least I know it's going to the production, the lights, the dancers. If I pay Cool Guy Ticket Broker $1,000, I'm just funding some guy's algorithm.
Precisely. It is a transfer of wealth from the dedicated fan to the opportunistic arbitrager. And because the inelasticity was so high, because fans refused to walk away, the scalpers could charge virtually anything they wanted.
There was that story in the CBS report about Mina,
Oh.
the single mom.
The sticker shock story, yeah.
She sees the prices, she gasps, but she ends up paying over $1,000 per ticket because she wants that memory for her daughter. That is a mother's love being monetized by a scalper.
It is. And that mechanism is why the government stepped in. When a market fails that badly, when the intended surplus is siphoned off so aggressively, it triggers a demand for regulation.
Speaking of governments getting involved, this wasn't just a U.S. problem, was it? The Eras Tour became an international incident.
This is one of my favorite parts of the research. We moved from microeconomics, tickets and scalpers, to macroeconomics and geopolitics.
The Singapore secret.
The Singapore secret.
So set the scene. Taylor is announcing her international dates. And the map looks a little weird in Southeast Asia.
Very weird. Usually a tour of this magnitude would hit the major hubs. Bangkok, Manila, Jakarta, Singapore, maybe Kuala Lumpur.
Right. You spread the love around the region.
But on the Eras Tour schedule, there was a black hole over most of the region. There was only one blinking red dot. Singapore.
6 shows. Only in Singapore.
Yeah.
For all of Southeast Asia.
And it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a scheduling conflict. It was a purchased exclusivity.
The infamous radius clause.
Exactly. The Singaporean government, specifically their Ministry of Culture and the Tourism Board, saw the economic hurricane that was coming. And they decided they didn't want to share the rain. They wanted all of it.
They paid a grant.
A grant. The rumors vary, but the Thai Prime Minister, who was not happy about this, leaked that the deal was in the range of $2 million to $3 million per show.
Wait. Per show. So they paid her team, let's say, $15 to $18 million. Just to not play in other countries.
Effectively, yes. The condition of the grant was exclusivity in the Southeast Asian region.
That is aggressive. That is economic warfare with sequins.
It's Swiftonomics as statecraft. And the neighbors were furious. We saw legislators in the Philippines demanding an explanation. The Thai PM publicly called it unfriendly.
I could just imagine the phone call. Hey, Singapore, we're all part of ASEAN. We're supposed to be friends. Why did you bribe the biggest tourist attraction of the decade to skip Bangkok?
And Singapore's response was essentially, it's just business. And from a strictly economic perspective, it was brilliant business.
Was it, though? $18 million is a lot of taxpayer money to give to a billionaire pop star. Did they make it back?
Oh, they made it back many, many times over. And this brings us to a beautiful concept called the multiplier effect.
Okay. Plain English time.
The multiplier effect is the idea that $1 spent in an economy doesn't just happen once. It ripples, it multiplies, it gets spent again and again.
Walk me through the ripple of a Swiftie in Singapore.
Okay, so a fan from the Philippines flies to Singapore for the show. They buy the concert ticket, that's the direct spend. But they're in a foreign country. They need a hotel.
They need to eat for 3 days?
They need a sparkly outfit from a local shop. They need a taxi to the stadium. They need to buy souvenirs.
The data says fans were spending an average of $1,300 to $1,500 per person on these trips, not including the ticket.
Exactly. Now trace that money. The fan pays the taxi driver $20. The taxi driver takes that $20 and buys lunch at a hawker stall. The hawker stall owner uses that money to buy more rice and chicken from a local supplier. That supplier then pays their employee.
So that one $20 bill supports 3 or 4 different local businesses.
Correct. The velocity of the money increases. The sources estimate that for every $100 spent on the ticket itself, roughly $300 to $400 was generated in the broader local economy.
Okay, so if Singapore spent $18 million on the grant, what was the total tourism impact?
Estimates suggest those 6 shows brought in between $225 million and $400 million in tourism revenue for Singapore.
You spend $18 million, you get $400 million back.
That is a return on investment of over 2,000%. If you could get that return on the stock market, you'd be the richest person on earth. It was an absolute masterstroke of economic policy.
It's fascinating because it treats a pop star not as an artist, but as infrastructure. Like usually governments pay subsidies to build a factory or a new stadium. Singapore paid a subsidy to import a human being for 2 weeks.
Because that human being generates more immediate economic activity than a factory. And the swift lift wasn't limited to Singapore. We saw it in the U.S. too.
Oh yeah, Chicago set an all-time record for hotel revenue. Something like $39 million in one weekend.
Cincinnati hit 98% hotel occupancy.
98%.
Yeah.
That means if your car broke down in Cincinnati that weekend and you weren't a Swiftie, you were sleeping in your car.
You were out of luck. And this highlights our next concept. Complementary goods.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Exactly. Some goods are linked. If you buy one, you almost have to buy the other. You cannot consume the Eras Tour experience without consuming logistics.
Transportation and lodging.
Right. And while the concert ticket price was fixed, at least at face value, the prices of the complementary goods were flexible.
They were elastic.
And they exploded. We saw Airbnb rates in some cities, like Buenos Aires, hit 12 times their normal rate.
12 times.
Yeah.
That's price gouging.
Well, an economist would just call it supply and demand. The supply of apartments is fixed in the short term. You can't build a new hotel in a week. So when 70,000 people descend on a city, the price of a bed creates a nearly vertical line on the graph.
It really shows how interconnected everything is. You drop a pebble or a pop star in the water, and the waves hit hotels, restaurants, airlines, even the sequin manufacturers in China.
The total impact on the U.S. GDP alone was estimated at $4.3 billion.
$4.3 billion, with a B.
There were legitimate financial analysts saying that the Eras Tour, combined with the Barbie movie and Beyoncé, effectively prevented a recession in Q3 of 2023.
That is the headline of the decade. How Taylor Swift saved the economy.
It sounds funny, but consumer sentiment is a powerful thing. When people feel good, they spend. When they spend, businesses hire. The vibes can actually drive the math.
So we've covered the fans, the scalpers, the governments, the hotels, but I want to land the plane, or maybe the truck, I guess, on the people who actually made the tour happen.
The labor market.
Because all this money is great, but if the stage doesn't show up, there's no show.
Exactly. Supply isn't magic, supply is people. And at the end of the U.S. leg, there was this amazing story that leaked about bonuses.
The $55 million bonus pool.
Taylor Swift gave out checks totaling over $55 million to her entire crew. Dancers, riggers, sound engineers, caterers, everyone.
But the one that really grabbed the headlines was the truck drivers.
The logistics team, the unsung heroes who haul all that steel and those giant video screens across the interstate highway system.
She called them all into a meeting. There were about 50 of them, and she handed each of them a handwritten note and a check.
For $100,000.
$100,000
Yeah.
each.
To put that in perspective, the average annual salary for a commercial truck driver hauling that kind of specialized gear is roughly $80,000 to $90,000.
So she handed them a check for more than a year's salary in one go.
It is life-changing money. That is pay off the mortgage money. That is send the kid to college money.
Now, obviously, that's a very kind thing to do. It's generous.
Yeah.
But since this is an economics show, act like a cold-hearted economist for a second. Why do that? Why not just give them a $5,000 Starbucks gift card and call it a day?
It's what we call efficiency wages.
Explain that.
The theory is that paying workers above the market rate isn't just charity, it's a smart business strategy to increase productivity and reduce turnover.
Kind of turnover is expensive.
Especially in a high-stakes environment like this. Imagine the cost if a driver quits in the middle of Nebraska. Imagine if a driver is tired or disgruntled and drives that multi-million-dollar stage into a ditch.
The show stops.
The show stops. The cancellation costs would be in the millions, the insurance claims, the bad press. It's a disaster.
So by paying them $100,000, she is buying insurance.
She is buying loyalty. She is buying perfection. When you pay someone that much more than they could get anywhere else, they aren't just doing a job. They are protecting the asset. They are thinking, I am never going to find a boss this good again, so I'm going to be the best, most careful, most on-time truck driver in the world.
It turns the labor force into stakeholders. They are invested in the success of the tour.
Exactly. She recognized that her supply chain was human, and by investing in the humans, she secured the stability of the entire $2 billion operation.
It's a lesson a lot of companies could probably learn. You get what you pay for.
Indeed, cheap labor can be very, very expensive in the long run.
So we've looked at the Eras tour from every angle. We've seen the demand shift, the inelasticity, the market failure of the tickets, the multiplier effect in Singapore, and the efficiency wages of the truckers.
It's a full textbook in one concert tour.
It really is. And I think for the listener, the takeaway isn't just Taylor Swift is rich.
No, the takeaway is that these forces are invisible, but they are everywhere, all the time.
And that brings us to our viewer challenge for this deep dive.
We want you to put on your economist glasses this week.
Look for the invisible hand, as Adam Smith called it, in your daily life.
Next time you see a sold-out sign at a bakery, don't just be annoyed. Ask yourself, is this a shortage? Is the price too low? Why didn't they just bake more?
Next time you see a long line outside a store or a viral product on TikTok that disappears from shelves, ask yourself, is this a shift in demand? What changed in the culture? Is it the girl economy? Is it funflation?
And ask yourself about your own inelasticity. What is the one thing in your life, your coffee, your gym membership, your streaming service that you would pay for, even if the price doubled tomorrow?
That's where your personal economy lives.
Exactly. Economics is just about choices. It's about how we value things.
And apparently, as a society, we value sequined bodysuits and 10-minute breakup songs very, very highly.
The market has spoken.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Swiftonomics. Thank you for helping us follow the money.
Always a pleasure.
And to you, the listener, remember, economics isn't just a subject in a classroom. It's the heartbeat of everything we do. If you can understand the Eras tour, you can understand the world. Keep sketching the world around you. We'll see you in the next one.